Okay, welcome back. We are now going to begin our third segment and final segment of our three-part series on happiness and mental health. Today we will have a short review of the first two pieces, and then we'll have, to finish up, 10 keys or central precepts for happiness that you can take with you. So let's begin. As we have seen, everything in the real world is impermanent. One day, Buddha was sitting under his Bodhi tree. That's the tree where he famously gained enlightenment. And he was watching his own breathing, his thoughts, emotions, and his perceptions of the world. He observed they arise and they subside. They come and they go. So he came to this simple but important philosophical truth. Whatever arises will one day subside. Simple, huh? It reminds me of the lyrics of the old song, The First Hello and the Last Goodbye. It goes something like, we know each summer's coming means that winter's waiting there, and gold would not be precious if we all had gold to spare. You only know how low is low the first time that you fly, and the first time that we said hello began our last goodbye. So with regard to our happiness, we can say that a lot of our suffering comes from our wishful ideas of permanence in a field where all is ephemeral, all is change. Clinging to things where there is nothing permanent to hold on to, like holding on to mist or clouds, is a big source of our misery and unhappiness. Change and time take the impermanent world away. And the one desperately holding on to the impermanent is him or herself also impermanent. Consider your lifetime as though a snapshot had been taken of you once every month. How much differently we would encounter life if we really allowed this simple truth to permeate our thinking and understanding. You never know what you have till it's gone, someone said. It's the impermanence, the gone part, that gives us that clarity and appreciation and thankfulness for what is. That's one of the gifts that wisdom gives for happiness. The Roman poet Sextus wrote of impermanence, how it's the absence of something that makes the heart grow fonder. Impermanence means for us perhaps uncomfortable, but certain growth. The acorn cannot stay as it is if it is to become the oak tree. Conversely, familiarity breeds contempt, wrote the English poet Geoffrey Chaucer in the 12th century. We easily tire and treat with contempt the things with which we are overly familiar. When we really allow the impermanence of life to be seen and held and known, while it may at first seem a little unnerving, the result is that we are given new eyes in the time we have left. Eyes to really see the colors, the creation, the people. Ears to really hear the birds singing, really hear all the parts in the changing symphony that is life. Next, this mental health, happiness that wisdom gives us comes from all that is common. All that is common to being human. For instance, all of our physical bodies are made from what is common recycled materials of earth and stars. Our body circulates like recycled water. Our breath is recycled air. Our thoughts are typically recycled information. Our feelings and emotions are recycled energies as a result of our interactions with each other in the past. Even our personality, our pictures of ourselves, our egos, are recycled from relationships. That's how we create our mental images of ourselves. So, if all these things are common and are recycled, then what is it that indwells us, that can declare throughout the ever-changing scenery of life, I am this or I am that? Who is this I am in us, in the ever-changing kaleidoscope we call life? Jesus announced, I am the way, the truth. Who is this I? In the narrow and shallower sense, it is Jesus, the man from Galilee from the first century. But in the broader and deeper sense, it is the Christ self within, the spiritual consciousness. Why did Jesus say, I and the Father are one, but yet a little later add, the Father is greater than I? The answer is that Jesus, the human being, had attained complete harmony with his higher self and felt himself one with it. But the universal Christ principle will always be greater than the man himself. The I am that I am, who's looking out from behind you right now, will always transcend the person, be immensely grander and wiser and nobler than the personal, impermanent self. This I am that I am entity is greater, nobler, wiser, and stronger than our personal selves, yet mysteriously and inseparably linked to them. Our bodies are born at some point in time and somewhere in space, but their essence, the conscious I am presence, is birthless, timeless, and placeless. If we really sit with this and let it sink in, really understand this, we will be happy every time we remember it, because we will act with a love and compassion born of its truth. Understanding the impermanent sides of our natures is an honorable thing to do. It will result in elevating you and me and everybody else who is now part of this creative universe. Each brief expressions of a regalness and royalty, each co-creators of what exists, both within ourselves and in our world. One of Buddha's greatest contributions to mental health was that he realized that our thoughts are incessant, just as every vibrating atom in the whole universe is incessantly active. And like the universe, our incessantly active thoughts recycle as well. They must come and they must go. Rumi wrote a poem called The Guest House. This human being is a guest house, he wrote. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes at an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Buddha wondered, where do these unexpected visitors come from and go to? And you who are listening to me right now, if you'll turn your attention to the one who is inside you listening right now, the inner conscious listener is the welcomer of Rumi's poem, welcoming these recycling arrivals to your guest house, your temple, your body. Be the welcomer, as Rumi writes. I hope the arrivals at your guest house each feel that they have received a welcoming presence. Have they? That's your consciousness. That's your spirit caring for yourself. It's not your chattering, talking intellect, which is probably saying something like, wow, this is really deep, or this guy's really out there, or something else that's true. Whatever the inner feeling is, it's a visitor to your guest house. It's a thought, a sensation. It arises, it subsides. Buddha wants us to be observant as to who's that there in you, the seer, the listener, the welcomer. We're not the visitors, never the visitors. Some scientists have referred to this observing, listening, conscious place where we're listening from and seeing from as the non-local mind. This consciousness, this point of awareness we call mind, cannot be conclusively located in our physical bodies. It is here, yet it is not specifically pinned down, not operating from one place in our body. It's non-local. The consciousness that welcomes all the arrivals lives behind one's thoughts. It isn't located there. It's the same divine cosmic consciousness that created all the intelligent activity of the whole universe. So Buddha says that we suffer partly because we are so attached to mental pictures and other ideas of a permanent ego self, too invested in the illusion of a permanent me. We seem to be sitting in a chair or standing here. But if we go back to my monthly snapshot suggestion, which snapshot captures the total real you? Can any one snapshot do it? It turns out none of them are the real you. If we take a step back and try to really see what Jesus and Buddha are driving at, it's that counterintuitively, the knowledge of the world's impermanence brings us all the more quickly to our transcendent natures. I perceive of a truth, Peter said in Acts 10, God is no respecter of persons, no respecter of the personal ego sides of our natures. When we are seen in truth, seen as God sees us, it's something way beyond snapshots, beyond personal egos, beyond who you look like in this one frame. Frames change. You're not, as Alan Watts identified, skin-encapsulated egos, not as it seems, not a separate self, but you are an incessantly active, living, endlessly recycled being made in the image of God and invited into the likeness of your Creator and Source. And remember that you're connected to all that exists in the total recycling universe. Buddha and Jesus want us each to come home to our true selves, to touch the garment's hem of the real you, to find salvation. And as you continue to look beyond the impermanent world, beyond the personal side of your nature and everyone's, you begin to catch glimpses at first. You begin to experience the transcendent, your truer, higher, impersonal, Christ-like side, your Buddha-like side, your higher nature. You enter into transcendence, or what psychologist Stanislav Graf calls the transpersonal self. Transcendence is a physiological, psychological, emotional state of being, naturally built into our biologies, a higher function even than self-actualization. Self-actualization means in part to attain a differentiated space from your environment, to know yourself, to be yourself, separate from the environment, and yet at one with the whole of life. That's self-actualization. But higher still than that function, this costly pearl, this sustained happiness in the loftiest, deepest sense, transcends all the circumstances of life, just like a babe in his mother's or father's arms. This is the experience of grace, that foretaste divine, that I and the Father are one feeling, also called nirvana. In my Father's house there are many mansions, Jesus told us. Buddha wants us to really understand the impermanent nature of our world so that this true nature will then become apparent. Transcendence is that truer nature. It points us to a place that's highest and best in us, and designed by God and nature for us to evolve into, for us to grow into this most well-designed of places. We are invited to work towards and participate in attaining it. Now, as we finish our review, we come to our spot where we will now have a discussion of 10 precepts or keys to take away to perfect the practice of happiness in your life. And it's my hope that these keys, if you will consider them, will be useful to you in the maintaining of happiness in your life. The first key, I think, is this most important one, is to be aware of your body. Let everyone sweep in front of his own door and the whole world will be clean, wrote Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Goethe was talking about the front door of your perception, the front door of your temple. Between your inner world and your outer world, your consciousness is this threshold, this door that must be swept clean. Jesus said, I am the door no one can shut. Through the temple of your body, you're joined, literally made a part of a vast field of creative intelligence. When you attune to your own body, you're eavesdropping on the mind of creation, on the universe itself, of which you are literally a part. By bringing your attention span, your consciousness to bear on your own physical body, you begin to beneficially alter the body's natural chemistry. researchers have determined that the natural flow of peptides in our bodies is enhanced when we bring our awareness to our physical bodies. Peptides are naturally occurring biological molecules and are found in all living organisms. Peptides play a key role in all manner of biological activity, and they flow through all the organs of our bodies more freely when we give the body the gift of clock time, the gift of our own attention. The speed of the inner working of the body is awe-inspiring. Electrical signals travel at hundreds of miles an hour in our bodies. Consider all the things we can do at the same time. Become aware for a few minutes each day of the collaborative efforts of the many parts of your own body making its own universe. These rapidly moving chemicals in your body, many of them have very ancient sources. Once those same atoms were in the explosions of giant red stars eons ago in outer space. Some of the molecules in your body are the result of new compounds made when exploding stars collided, and the combined heat and energy from their multiple explosions fused together and formed unique new substances. The calcium in your left fingernails may have come from a different star's explosion than the calcium in your right fingernails. Our body, like all organic life on Earth, is literally made from material from the stars. Our body is therefore a part of the energy field we call the universe. We're not separate from the universe of which we are made. It is the ocean of which we are the drop. Everything that is happening in our bodies is part of all that incessant activity, joined to all that activity of everything that is happening in the universe right now. Listening to our bodies allows us to tune into the orchestra of the universe in a very personal way. While science has developed our understanding of the world outside ourselves, the one who would be aware of his or her temple discovers a world within themselves, discovers there within themselves that there is an observer there within the temple. Consciousness, the great I am. Happiness has this main key, namely, of being able to connect with the observing inner being, to see inwardly, listening and looking to see the messages coming from the body, the mind, and the intuition. Messages of comfort and discomfort in our body are neurological information designed to help us make right decisions. In order to benefit from what lies hidden within, one has to change one's relationship to the body, to being present in the body, listening patiently to the body. By doing this, you're plugging into the divine mainframe, or cosmic biological computer, or some might say the Holy Spirit. When you listen to the temple of the body, you are joining your awareness to the consciousness and general awareness that's already there, operating in each and every cell of your body simultaneously. Allow yourself to simply conceive and hold this idea that there is consciousness and intelligence in every neuron, in every cell of your body, giving you whatever information you're getting right now. Now, I would like to suggest this experiment that you can make to get acquainted with your body. I'm going to suggest how to do this in a practical way. Imagine you are perhaps sitting down in a seat and you are deciding that you want to get in touch with your body. Here's one powerful way to try and do that. As you sit in the seat that you're now sitting in, I want you to become aware of your feet. As you sit there, your feet are telling you, through the neurons in your feet, that you can feel the floor underneath your feet. Your feet are telling you that right now. They're giving you information that there's a floor underneath me. If that weren't coming to you, you'd probably be flailing your arms and legs in the air, trying to stabilize yourself. But you don't need to do that, because the information coming to you from your feet is assuring you that there is a stable floor that will hold every pound of your weight. That's signal coming to you from your body, from your feet. Now, in addition to that, you may also experience that you can feel, if you have socks, you can feel your socks and your footwear surrounding the outside of your foot. In addition to information about the floor, your body's also giving you information about your socks or your footwear. Or if you don't have any on, maybe your feet are cold. But your body's giving you that information that it can feel. It can feel footwear, it can feel socks, it can feel cold in feet. As you move up your body, you will begin to become aware that your body is telling you that it can feel the material of your pants or your dress or your shorts on your waist or your legs as you sit in the seat that you're sitting. You can actually feel that material. Your body's telling you about that sensation. In addition, as you sit there, your body may be communicating to you that it can feel the weight of the body on the seat. It may be moist. It may be warm where you are sitting. The body is telling you that it can feel that. It can feel the heat and the moisture on the cushions or on the seat that you're sitting. Further, the body is telling you that you can feel the material of your shirt or sweater or blouse as it drapes over your shoulders, as it goes down your arms. Your body is giving you that information. You can receive that signal. Your body is telling you that it can feel the expansion and the contraction of your chest as you breathe in and out. Your body is telling you that it can feel that air moving in and out of your mouth or your nose. Your body is sending you the signal that it can feel the breathing in and out. It can feel the air passing. Your body is telling you the signal that it can feel your eyelids blinking over your eyeballs. If it's quiet in the room and you're quiet enough within yourself, your body may be able to tell you you can hear your own heartbeat. All of these are signals coming to us from our body. The whole body is a lively, self-interacting, intelligent field of consciousness. The whole body is lively, it is self-interacting, it's an intelligent field of energy. The whole body is lively, self-interacting, an intelligent field of bliss and happiness. Keep your awareness on this lively body, scintillating with signal and with energy for a few minutes every day. Receive these signals. Once you have put your awareness, your consciousness, your intelligence back home into your body, notice how almost instantly improvements are sensed. As we become calmer, more relaxed, more alive than ordinary. When we are paying attention to all that is external to the body, we can become totally captivated and distracted. But when we remain aware of our bodies, we engage in the first act of consciousness. It is to be aware of the signals coming to you from your body. It has a tremendously beneficial impact on one's body chemistry and neurology. You will observe how bringing your own attention and consciousness to your body changes how you are feeling, maybe relaxes you or energizes you. So then, our first key to start with for happiness is to remember not to get too distracted with outer things or to get locked up into our imaginations for too long, and to remember to pendulate your awareness very often back and forth between what's going on in your body and in your heart, back for a while to what's going on in the world around you. The moment you start to feel the distress of the world outside you, at that moment try to bring your consciousness back to your body and make contact again for a moment with that observing eye in your inner chamber. Remember, when you bring your awareness to your body, you change, you enhance its chemistry. It gets energized and happy by the secretion of those neurotransmitters, the happy-making neurochemicals we saw in part 1, because that's the nature of consciousness. If you have any awareness of discomfort in the body, bring your awareness to that discomfort and keep it there for a minute or so until the discomfort softens and subsides or just goes away. Practicing body awareness before meals will help you to normalize your weight, because your body will tell you, I've had enough or I've had not enough. Because the body possesses intelligence, it can regulate itself. There's a feedback loop there that tells you what you are to do and what it wants. I'm thirsty, for example, or I'm tired. In terms of overall happiness in life, there's nothing like this key. Understanding where the source is, tapping into the inner source of happiness. That's what wisdom is all about. And that source is hidden in your temple. Your body is the ultimate engineering project of a supreme genius, expressing the activity and wisdom of the created universe. Our next precept or key to happiness is live in the present moment. Why do that? Philosopher Dr. Paul Brunton wrote that it's in the very fact of the illusory nature of what we think of as time and the actuality of the eternal present that our best hope, our finest opportunity is to be found. That's because it means that the future can be shaped within due limits. We can help to make tomorrow, can contribute something to it, at least by bringing it into today, into this moment. But all this remains only a mere possibility if we don't take advantage of this paradoxical and astounding truth. We must sweep the stoop, begin by clearing away some of the debris with which past habits, thoughts, feelings, and attitudes have cluttered our insides. Learning to live in the present means in part decluttering, bringing your awareness to the here and now, where your body is breathing and your heart is pounding, and where your being is being, with a capital B. The past and the future, where are they? They are now, and they have always been, only ideas. They're so subjective and individualized. But the present never ends. It's in constant production. Every living thing right now is receiving more reality to experience. Consider that for a moment. The past and the future are only ideas, productions of our imagination. As we imagine the past or the future, we abandon the only time that truly exists. Our physical bodies still reside anchored in the here and now, in the burning moment, lungs breathing, heart pumping. But while our bodies are sending all these signals to our awareness, where are we? Nowhere to be found. We've been absorbed by the imagination again, by the matinee of pictures, words, and images in our heads, telling and showing us subjective stories about the past and the future. The present moment is a burning bush. It is a holy window. It is a sacred place of transformation, a corridor to the mind of God. This moment is where we may touch the garment's hem of Christ. It's the place between what's only potential and what's going to be real and manifest. Awareness, this is the first step to actually becoming present in the moment. As soon as you see, as soon as you become conscious for yourself that you're in the past or have headed off into some anticipated future, as soon as you see you're no longer in the present moment, that mental behavior of seeing it, that act of recognizing you're in thoughts of the past or the future, brings you again into the present moment. Another way to be present is to focus on the space or the air between your body and other objects in the room. Or if you like reverse psychology, you could ask yourself, what's so bad about being made of recycled stars and being a divine mystery in this present moment? And of course the answer will come back when you're seeing rightly that nothing is wrong with it. If we're seeing rightly, it's a perfectly good moment. If you feel intense, or about to explode, try to separate the events that you're entering in your imagination from what is now the present moment. Everything we did or said even 30 seconds ago is as gone, is as in the past, just as the times of ancient history, never to return. Let's try and hear what troubles us through this now filter. Attune yourself to the present moment often. Make it a daily practice. Install it as new software in the computers of your lives. Develop some loyalty to placing your mind in the present moment. Even though imagination offers its avenue of escape, remember, it's often our attempted escape from the moment that adds suffering and misery to some unwanted pain. Learn to say as a mantra something like, God has given me everything I need right here and now to learn the lessons God wants me to know. Or, this present moment is as it should be. I don't want to escape it. Repeat these kinds of statements to yourself softly during your 15 minutes of quiet time or meditation each day. This moment is as it is because the whole universe is as it is. To quote Max Ehrmann in his 1927 poem, The Desiderata, right? Go placidly. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. So trying to disconnect, to dissociate, to escape in any way from what is just another penny-wise but pound-foolish effort. It's often the wrong use of the imagination. It's a failure to see the big picture. Trying to escape an incessantly active, very present universe, one that is actively expressing itself personally to you and as you, that's very difficult to get away from, but we found a place. It's in our heads. Don't dissociate from the now moment anymore. Don't bother going through all the futility of trying to escape from it and from what you are. Find nature's escape hatch. Find the door no one can shut out of the prison house. This holy moment. Think about how exceptional it is to occupy this moment. For you to be born today, 12 previous generations had to meet and have children over the last 500 years or so. consider that. To get to this present moment, the one that we're in right now, in each of our cases, almost 4,100 people had to meet and have children. This moment, one that you're invited to attend to, one you must agree to occupy, comes at an incredible human cost. When you enter the present moment, you are the fruit, the successful overcoming of all their struggles, all their battles, of all their sadness. This moment is sponsored by all their love and happiness, all their expressions of hope for this very moment. Savor it now, claim it now, and bear it nobly and regally now. A third important key or precept, if you want increased happiness, and if you want to find it sooner when you feel you've lost it again, then remember this key too, one of embracing the phenomenon called silence. Learn to listen to silence again and again, like it was waves of the sea. Learn to quiet your thoughts. When we become focused on silence, on the space between thoughts, we take our bodies into a deeply healing psychological and physiological place. Listening to the silence not only beneficially rewires overstressed or traumatized bodies, overly disposed to arousal of the sympathetic nervous system, but opens us as well to what is highest and best in our nature. Silence connects us with the divine, with the transcendent. It's a spiritual place of possibility and renewal. Silence is the necessary space between each word in this text. Silence is necessary as a space between each musical note. Intention, like the intention of your body to breathe or the intention of your heart to go on pumping blood, intention orchestrates best in the field of silence, orchestrates best its own healing and wholeness, its own fulfillment. That's the real law of attraction, our silent intentional energy bringing our outer life into manifestation and harmony. Silence means learning to experience something. It's an encounter. It's different than the mere absence of sound, or as mere nothing. It is instead to embark out onto the front lawn of heaven. Silence holds a gift that makes us truly happy and satisfied. Our inner world, with its thoughts and emotions, reveal not the present, but the images of the past and potential future. They come from past experiences and have been impressed on us neurologically, psychologically, spiritually. Everything that has ever happened to us has been recorded in the neurology of our bodies, held in our tissue like books in a library. All the records of earlier life held in an arbitrary neuroplasticity. These old neural patterns are the physiological home of the memories we see, the desires, the imaginations that we then act out. They are recycled neural patterns, scripts, tapes. They're old thought patterns. In the silence, we'll see them operating. These recurring thoughts that we find when we enter the silence of our inward looking show us earlier software installed in our inner beings. It's part of self-knowledge to get an inventory of all that old programming in us, and what Carl Jung said was necessary for wholeness when he wrote, "We must make the unconscious conscious." Silence is where we do that. Unhappy people tend to be the people who unknowingly, or in a learned or conditioned way, are living out these old patterns formed and shaped by earlier life experiences. In a way, unhappy people become both their own jailer and the one held captive by these old patterns in a jail cell of their own making. The goal of all good therapy and the goal of entering the silence is the same: release from captivity and the shifting of the old memory patterns, free from the past. The best therapy, just like learning to be present in the silence, provides us with an effective intervention that heals us, restores us, and shifts our old neural memory patterns so effectively. A new physiological kind of alchemy, a synthesis is struck as each arm of our process, the conscious awareness on the one hand, and whatever rising issue we see in our mind, whatever it is, on the other, these things wire together in the silence we hold, one with the other. This produces moments of a new wholeness, which can be characterized by experiences of a silent happiness and rest and peace. Your central nervous system is made to give you this happiness as a baseline, a biological set point of the physical body. You can recreate this new set point every time you learn to give your body what it needs to create it for you. It is achieved neurologically, with your help. We do this intervention of conscious silence and awareness, this I am discipline, this practice each day for about 15 minutes. Every effort must be made, especially at the beginning, to do it daily if rapid progress towards being happy is to be attained. We observe all the thoughts that arise, and we meet each thought in the sacred observing silence. It's an experiment to see if we can give the body what it needs to, again, recreate this wonderful equilibrium, this natural biological set point of peace and happiness. If lots of thoughts come, it's okay. Try this simple technique to balance it. Meet each event within you with an I am, a thought I am. No story. Just find a simple kind of a mantra that brings you back to the here and now. Be here now, for another example, is a good mantra that has no story. Don't be preoccupied in these 15 minutes of daily practice with the goal of entering some kind of transcendent silence, because that's an imagination, not a listening to and an observing of the present moment in one's body. And this is the key. Your body needs to be held by your own silent awareness and consciousness in clock time. Your own self-directed, quiet attention in the silence with your own body will have a profound chemical effect on its ability to self-regulate and maintain well-being, and to heal, and to create and recreate a lasting sense of happiness. Another key to happiness is to give up what I call the number one drug of choice, the approval of others. Once you get a little of this drug, you want more. Many people have made the approval they might get from others into a kind of God in their lives. A happy person can quickly get free from both criticism and flattery. The happiness of mental health and wisdom means we feel neither superior nor inferior to anyone. A confident and secure person is calm and fearless because their whole self-identity comes from an internal place, from within their own self, and not through the situation, the circumstances, events, and relationships of their life. Let go of your need to be approved of by others. Now, some might say, well, I'm not needing approval from anyone. But what lengths might one go to avoid a respected or admired person's disapproval? When we are constantly in need of approval or try to avoid or recoil from someone's disapproval, we give all the power of our happiness to others, to something outside ourselves. If we want to be happy, we have to realize it is our own independent thinking that will give us this happiness that we seek, not getting the approval from outside ourselves. This has been called having an internal locus of control. Now, if you want to try another helpful technique, this is an affirmation with healthy self-talk. Instead of seeking approval from outside yourself, learn to give it to yourself this way. Every time you pass a mirror, make this statement, or say something loving and friendly to the one you see in the reflection. Look right into that one's eyes and say, like you really mean it, I love you. I love you. Especially do it if you don't feel like it. Notice the awkward feelings. Try to go beyond them in this experiment. Try to look deeply into the eyes of the person you see there looking back from the mirror, even if it means tears or awkwardness. Say these affirmations. You're okay just the way you are. You do most things right. You're beautiful, and I love you. Say things like these to the one in the mirror until those eyes glint or sparkle back. Happiness comes in large part from the absence of the need of approval from the world outside us. Get rid of toxic emotions. Nelson Mandela stated, having a grievance or a resentment is like drinking poison and thinking it will kill your enemy. So let go of hostility and anger, regrets and fears and guilt. They are our true adversary, our true opponent in the game, not flesh and blood. Happiness is damaged, our body's health is jeopardized when we harbor toxic emotions of any kind for any reason. This means we take responsibility for our emotions. I make me feel this way, not you, not events, not circumstances, not you, but I, myself, decide how I will respond. It means we're willing to really feel those feelings, not bury them or deflect from them. Taking responsibility for how we are feeling means, in part, we have come to a good inventory and know and can name and describe our feelings. In therapy, we call this ability to identify feelings an insight. Some people may have more to start with, but insights have to be attained and worked for. Taking responsibility for one's own feelings means we can connect with the whole range of feelings inside us, have compassion for them as our guest house visitors, sit with them, and finally express them in ways that don't lead to unwanted consequences. It means we can describe our sad and angry and hard, and low, and flat feelings, and we no longer need to stuff them or repress them or behave them out or act them out. Taking responsibility for one's own feelings is an important step in being able to share them with those closest to us. We own them, they're ours, and so we can finally release them, finally shift those old neural pattern memories. We can purge all those toxic feelings that impeded the quality of our happiness up till now. It's good news. Now try this experiment in your meditation time, in your quiet time, sometime. Recall an experience with someone that causes you to feel a small amount of aggravation or stress. Go back 90 days if you have to, and see if there is someone that caused you to experience some kind of an emotional upset. Recall the emotionally upsetting moment, the conversation, the images, and as you remember these things, now move down to your body and feel where in your body do you feel those things. Where do you feel a little distress in your body? Identify that place in your body and define the emotion. Is it anger, fear, guilt, depression, jealousy, or frustration? Give it a label. Define the emotion. You'll notice that most of our emotions, when they get blocked, hurt the body in typical areas. We may hold fear in the stomach and anger and frustration in the chest or throat. Now, to clear all that out, we need to express it, to tell it to someone we trust, or we need to write it down. We have to get it out of the invisible interior world. One easy way to do that is through description. We put our inner world into a descriptive organization. It's a saving act. Those resentments and toxic feelings can then move out of the old storage places where we have stored them in our body's memory, releasing them into the description, placing the toxic material outside of the body safely into the world of words outside us. This allows us to process and eliminate toxic problems. And it helps us to activate the part of the brain that regulates all these intense feeling states within us. Writing is not simply a Dear Jane or Dear John or Dear Diary experience. Words are neurological activity. Words hardwire and re-hardwire the way the brain works. Words will consciously, but more importantly, words will unconsciously process feelings we'll have in the future. When we express in words or write the conflict down from our experience, we can explore all the angles of the problem. We can use our words to explore the conflict from the opposition's view, too. We can write down every view that we think of as being another view of the same situation. Processing toxic feelings in the first, second, and third person can be very helpful in cleaning them out. This shifts our perspective and begins the mature process of unifying instead of separating and dissociating. When you do this, you will maturely and, more importantly, effectively process the problematic event. You will feel better, your immune system will get an energy boost, and you'll think to yourself, this doesn't seem to be bothering me as much anymore. Sharing our described feelings with someone we trust helps us even more to dissipate the toxic energy that strangles out our happiness and spontaneous joy. Just as one social action with one person can bring toxic feelings, misery, and destruction, so telling another trusted person, one who can really listen, may become a source of healing and redemption for us. If we find that we're not benefiting from holding on to an emotion any longer, and it still bothers us even after we've told someone, we can invent ways to release it in different kinds of formal ceremonies. And then after those ceremonies, we can celebrate what the purification and release has done. People with happy mindsets, happy biological set points, see a happy world. This means that the world you experience is only a mirror of your internal world, your deeper self. We think we are seeing the world, but we are seeing ourselves projected onto the world. I am that I am. Consider for a moment, what if the world is only a mirror of our current state of awareness, of consciousness? So when you're trying to find and embrace happiness, remember where to begin looking for it. You have to achieve this mindset, this happy biological set point. You do this by asking your heart very often, who am I? What do I want? Listen in the silence, inquiringly for an answer. Don't focus on looking for concrete pad answers, but focus on listening to your heart as we ask our hearts, what do I want? Submerge your head into your heart. Now, as we listen inquiringly to our hearts again, let's ask our heart, what's my life's purpose? See what it may say or reveal. Listen patiently and openly. Listen in the silence. It may provide a wordless answer. It may give you an image or other inspiration or intuition. Now ask your heart, what contribution do I make to the world? And listen. Let your heart tell you what it wants to do. Ask your heart, who creates joy for me? And listen. What is it telling you? Ask, who are the most important people to me from history? What are my unique skills and talents? And really listen. What are the qualities I look for in a best friend? What are the best qualities I can express in my relationships? These questions, and these kinds of questions, lead us to attaining that new happy mindset, the new biological set points we're aiming for. They'll come from out of the profile of our authentic selves, of our deepest selves. We all have certain basic needs. We all want achievement, abundance, love, and belongingness. We all want to feel high self-worth. We all want renewal, creative expression. We all want higher guidance. But above all, we are happiest when we have transcendence. This means going as often as possible to that place where we can see everything as it is. To touch the garment's hem of reality. It is to be still and know that God is with you, all around you. And transcendence means to know thyself. Because the world you see is an expression of who you are. Authentic self-knowledge is the basis of sound mental health and the birthplace of wisdom's enduring happiness. It's an inward-born happiness, and that reflects and projects outwardly to others and to the world we see. As we go deep into ourselves, we'll encounter what all the sages and prophets and seers have encountered and seen. We'll see that all these resources are there. If you live out these questions of transformation into the discovery of the answer, through an insight or a coincidence, if you like, through a chance encounter or through a relationship, something full of grace will happen, and you'll say to yourself, aha, that's it. That's the answer to that question that I was asking myself for so long. Happiness is a feeling free from negative judgments. Remember that every thought you think leaves a chemical trace, results in neurological, chemical consequences. Judgmental thinking is no exception. Get out of the habit of negatively judging others or negatively judging yourself if your own happiness is your goal. Wake up every day and say, "Thank you, God." And practice this discipline of gratitude. Thank you, God, for making me just as I am. Say, just for today, I will not negatively judge anything that occurs. Then our minds will enter into that beneficial silence. Perhaps different issues will come to your mind and you're tempted to judge in ways that are negative. Instead, change your set point. See the big picture. Accept your own shadow, as Carl Jung might call it. Connect with, sit with, and learn to accept that part of you that feels angry or sad, edgy, flat, or low. Judgmental people are people who seldom see their own shadow. People who never see their own shadow never see it because they never stand in the antiseptic light of self-awareness. Those who stand in the light see their shadows, don't they? If you ignore the shadow, it will say, "I'm going to embarrass you." It will transfer out, it will project out. The unconscious shadow is dark and secretive, seemingly dangerous and primitive, and it surfaces when we suppress ourselves. When we are afraid of what other people will think of us, it may then turn pathological. We have to be aware of these shadow images we each carry. By making conscious the unconscious, by embracing and forgiving our shadows, we become saviors, small s, saviors of the world. How does a person get to a place of serenity and non-judgment with others? By seeing in themselves that they're in the brother or sister. Because of God's interconnecting grace go I. Not there but for the grace of God go I, but because of God's interconnecting grace, there goes I. How I judge them is how I judge myself. When you bring your own shadow into compassionate light, it is then that you stop judging yourself, and it is then that you stop judging others. How do you stop judging yourself, you may ask? How do you accept yourself? Here's a technique to stop judging yourself and others and to attract good relationships, if that's what you want to do. In your moments of stillness and silence each day, in your mind's eye, see a person who loves you, or someone who wants to love you, or imagine someone like Christ loving you in your imagination. In your mind's eye, see that one person expressing love to you as you tell them in your mind through words, expressions, or gestures. I'm dropping judgments and learning to love myself just as I am. I'm learning I'm a beautiful person. I'm a good person. I'm a loving person. I'm learning I love myself exactly as I am. Imagine as you tell this person you're seeing in your imagination that they confirm that. With their eyes, nodding their heads, you see them showing recognition of what you've just said about dropping judgments. Imagine their facial expressions agreeing with the truth of that. Capture that feeling. Sit with it for a few moments. Say to yourself soft and supportive statements like, weakness in myself is okay. Weakness is a part of being whole and complete. To have negative qualities and vices and errors is not a flaw. It is to be unique, complete, and wholly myself, an imperfect human being. All human beings are mixtures of paradox and contradiction, and dropping negative judgments for today, we accept this now. can remember when you're trying to learn to love yourself that you are neither the worst person ever born nor the best person ever born, but you are a human being born in the golden mean, in the middle. And that is to be celebrated. That is to be acknowledged as a good and wonderful place to live. A human being. Integrating, creating a new dialogue between our contradictions and paradoxes is the objective of good therapy and enlightenment. And it's the price that wisdom asks in exchange for the costly pearl of happiness it offers us. Reflect on that for a moment each day. Be aware of how judgments can ruin your happiness and how everything is a mirror of ourselves. Radiate a simple, unaffected humanity. Remove toxins from your life. Substances, food, habits, emotions, and relationships. We don't need that toxic stuff for happiness. In fact, it gets in the way of our happiness and creates imbalance. To remove toxins, we simply still ourselves once again, and in the silence begin to think of exhaling as your letting go muscle. Like our breaths, before we can take a new one, we must let go constantly, the old one. So we are letting go of something naturally 480 times an hour. Now we're thinking also about other things in our life that are no longer helping us anymore. Something that's interfering with our happiness and higher purpose. Turn your mind to personal relationships and see if there is someone in your life who is really toxic to you. If there is such a relationship, bring it into the field of your attention, the field of your awareness, and say to the image as you exhale, I let you go. In the same way, bring some habit in your life that may be toxic. Perhaps it's a diet issue, road rage, worrying, some toxic habit. Remember to bring the whole habit into your awareness and say to it as you exhale, I let you go. Just for today, I let go of all my grievances and resentments, and I ask for forgiveness. And letting go of all these toxic things, we create a space for a fresh breath, for something new and more fulfilling to enter. Here is both death and resurrection, death of the old toxic ways and birth of a new integrated human being. Every time we really let go, there is a mini resurrection taking place in us. One of the final keys is replacing fear-based thinking with love-based thinking. Deep inside each of us, there are two impulses. One is to separate, and one is to unite. The happiness of mental health and wisdom always works and tries to cultivate the more perfect states of unity and resist the temptation to cultivate separation and dissociation, which leads to delusion, to fear, to anxiety, to stress, and to a lowered immunity. Replace fear thoughts with a voice of love or gratitude thoughts. Replace conditioned fear thoughts with a now-conscious presence, one that integrates and unifies through observing, through language and dialogue. Fear-based behaviors act to separate us from our true selves, from one another, and from God and true reality. Fear-based thinking alienates us and makes us feel disconnected and uncomfortably alone. Fear throws our bodies into arousal by making fight, flight, freeze, or fold up chemicals. Love and gratitude give beneficial chemistry to our bodies, bringing unity and compassion, integrating diverse aspects in a dialogue that goes on and on and on. If you want to understand how this works, imagine some stranger in a crowded public place. Look at that stranger and say to yourself, that stranger has experienced happiness just like me. Understand that. Say, that stranger has experienced fear in his life just like me. That person has experienced love for others, sickness and sorrow, will grow old one day, and that person's going to die one day just like me. Now, say to yourself, that person I feared is really just like me. This is a way of favorably changing our biological set points, changing our mindsets away from the fear base. If we can get to a love or a gratitude, our chemistry will be working for us and not against us. This way of resetting our set points brings love and unity to our fearful social relationships, because we see and remember how our commonality is greater than our perceived differences, and how right thinking will make these neurochemicals in our body that greatly bless us and enhance our well-being. Finally, then, our last key, our last precept, is awareness itself, is consciousness, is seeing, being a good witness. You are the seer, not the scenery. You are the listener, not separate from the audience who's listening, but one of them who are listening to yourself. At the end of the day, go back through the day as if it were in a movie and say, that's me, and it's already gone. Okay, that was me, but it's not set in stone. I'm not that. I'm the witness of that. The witness, which is always there. This will free you. The 20th century French philosopher and priest Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, we're not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings immersed in a human experience. And as Jesus said in John chapter 17, we are in the world, but not of it. And to see and observe that is happiness, is peace, is what the Buddhists call nirvana, which simply means being fully present in a non-judgmental way. The highest form of human intelligence is to be fully conscious, aware, mindful of yourself and everything that's happening around you. Dropping evaluations and judgments and simply being present to what is. Being a good witness. I close our study of happiness now with a poem called Happiness, written by Jane Kenyon. She writes, there's just no accounting for happiness or the way it turns up like a prodigal who comes back to the dust at your feet having squandered a fortune far away. And how can you not forgive? You make a feast in honor of what was lost and take from its place the finest garment which you saved for an occasion you could not imagine. And you weep night and day to know that you were not abandoned, that happiness saved its most extreme form for you alone. No, happiness is the uncle you never knew about who flies a single-engine plane into the grassy landing strip, hitchhikes into town, and inquires at every door until he finds you asleep mid-afternoon, as you so often are during the unmerciful hours of your despair. It comes to the monk in his cell. It comes to the woman sweeping the street with a birch broom, to the child whose mother has passed out from drink. It comes to the lover, to the dog chewing a sock, to the pusher, to the basket maker, and to the clerk stacking cans of carrots in the night. It even comes to the boulder in the perpetual shade of pine barrens, to rain falling on the open sea, to the wine glass, weary of holding wine. And I might add, it even comes to you and me.